Hi, and welcome to episode 19. Had to think about that then. Episode 19, season 2 of the Ask Zophie podcast. Thank you so much for being here with me. Today, I'm actually going to do this episode with no notes. When I have my notes, they're not like really in depth, but I normally have just some like bullet points to, you might not believe this, but in an attempt to keep me sort of on track. You're probably thinking that, Zophie, you like go way off track all the time. So what are you saying? So anyway, today I thought I'm going to try with no notes. I don't know why. Maybe I'll actually end up more on track because there's no track for me to be on. But it could go like totally wonky. I don't know. We'll see. I thought I'm just going to go with it, see what happens behind the scenes before I get into it. And today I'm actually going to, I haven't decided what the title of this episode is yet, but I'm speaking to approaching your life and the aspects within it from a place of being willing to do what's required, but also asking consistently, how can I approach this with more ease? So it's those two things. And like I say, I haven't actually decided what I'm going to call it yet. And hopefully I'll come up with something a bit certainly more punchy and eloquent than that. But I don't know, maybe not. But I'm going to speak to that in a minute. Before I do, I'm going to share my, as always, behind the scenes. And then I'm going to share a page from Love Notes, which I've already picked actually. But my behind the scenes is, as you probably know, normally I record 2 of these podcasts, one after the other. So every other week, every other Monday, I do 2 podcasts. It makes life a bit easier because I take all my equipment out of the cupboard, I get myself ready. And so it's much more efficient to do more than one in one go rather. Probably if I was quote unquote better and more professional, I'd be able to do more than that. But at the moment, that's all I manage. Anyway, I just not long ago finished recording last week's recording. And here I am as if it's like a week later, but obviously the magic of YouTube and podcasting, it's actually the same day. I just changed my hair and my top to make it look like, woohoo, it's a week later. Anyway, I was saying in last week's episode that today, which will now be last week because you're listening, is the last day of my detox. And so what I said last week was my tummy might be making some noise. And actually, well, I'm going to say it didn't, but maybe it did, but I just wasn't aware. But I felt like it didn't, except just after I pressed to end the recording, my tummy made like a really big sound. And I was laughing to myself because it was like, wow, that was lucky. Or maybe not, I don't know, because it's funny, but that didn't happen 2 minutes, 20 seconds, whatever it was before that. So that made me chuckle. Anyway, that's my silly behind the scenes. I'm going to just, sorry about the noise, of just grabbing my copy of Love Notes. And like I say, I already picked a page for us earlier. And before I share this morning, my daughter, Yara, you might know, she's 12, in fact, nearly 13. And she is like my little sidekick. On the weekend, I think it was, she said 2 things to me. Well, she said many, many things. But anyway, she said, when I die, can I go in the coffin with you? Okay, and I was like, blimmin' heck, do I not even get a rest then? And then yesterday she said, I don't want you to die before me. I want to die first. She said, I couldn't handle it. And then she said, well, can we die together? I was like, wow, okay. And actually, on a serious note relative to that, what I do want to make sure that I get through to her is that, and I've already said this, I am not the source of your comfort, your strength, your happiness, because I don't want her to rely on me. And I want her to know that that comes from within her. Like, it's nice that she loves me that much and she wants to be around me, but I don't want her to think that I am the source of that. Anyway, that's somewhat of an aside. But she picked up Love Notes and she picked a page and it said, come home to me now, I think it said. And I was like, that made sense for her, and I won't go into why, but it really did make sense, as so often happens with when people pick a page from Love Notes. But so I'm going to see if I get the same thing again, and lo and behold, she opened and she did get the same thing again. And like, to be fair, that is on a bunch of pages, but still, so that was kind of cool. But anyway, that's on one of the pages for today, page 49. But the page that I want to share is page 48. And it goes, I've got you. Let yourself fall fully into me. Let me love you. I've got you. Let yourself fall fully into me. Let me love you. Okay, that's page 48. All right, so let me get into it. I'm talking, like I say, about marrying, working together with these two ideas of doing what's required and asking, how can I make this easier? How can I choose the path of ease while I do this? Now, I got this idea from, I'm doing some training with a woman that you may or may not know. I think I've mentioned her before, called Amanda Frances, and I've said this before, I'll say it again. She is someone 100% who's probably you'll either love or hate. She has that kind of persona. And she is fantastic when it comes to teaching. Sorry, that was me squeaking the chair. When it comes to teaching on the topic of money and manifesting abundance and wealth. And if that's something you're into, I would recommend her book, Rich as F-U-C-K. And she's got a load of free resources if you want to start with, probably on YouTube. I don't know, her Instagram, whatever. You can just Google her up and find her. That reminds me, what was it Daniel was saying? I'm gonna order up. He's talking about ordering stuff online. Instead of saying I'm going to order it, he said I'm going to order it up. And I was like, what do you mean order it up? Like, where is it? Where are you getting it from? Is it down somewhere? Why are you saying that? He's like, I have no idea. It's funny. Anyway, I'm doing her course, I think it's called Money Mama, but I'm not even sure. I've looked at her courses before. They're relatively expensive. And I always say relatively because my thing to ask myself a lot is that expensive to Jeffrey Bezos? No, it's not. So I can't accurately call it expensive, and it's not helpful to do that. But anyway, that's a whole other issue. But there was one that she was doing it's the first time she's done it, so it's cheaper than usual, and it really resonated with me. And so I'm enrolled in that, and she did the first module last month. I think it was recently, and in the last few weeks. And she was talking, it's all about kind of like being a mum and managing, spinning all the different plates that we spin, and doing it kind of in a way that feels good. I think ultimately that's not the best description. I'm sure she'd say it way better. Anyway, in this first module, it's interesting because I was listening to someone talk a little while ago, and they were saying that they'd done some training and they had like so much content they'd written down, and they needed to like whittle it down. And I'm like, that doesn't happen to me. What happens to me when I listen to a podcast, or I read a book, or I attend a masterclass, or whatever it might be, is I have this capacity, maybe because I've been doing what I do. Whoops, sorry, that's my phone going off. That's never happened before. Actually, that's my daughter Yara. Should we see what she said? That's funny because we're talking of the devil. Wow, it's she's just sent me a photograph of a really broken chair and said, need a chair. I'm showing you that on YouTube. I'm just going to message her actually and say, please don't call as I'm recording, because her messages come through. So pardon me doing that, but I don't know how to edit video yet. So I can't cut this out, and I don't want her to be calling me. I didn't realize it's 3 o'clock. Wowzers. That was me getting started slow today. So I think I'm getting back to my point. Hopefully I am. But in this, I was saying that I am able to pick out the nugget. To, like, I was doing a session for someone the other day, and they're chatting, and then she said something, and I was like, whoa, hang on a minute, stop yourself there. You've just said something, and I want to share something because this insight came through. It's crystal clear to me. I'm like, if you can get this, if this can land with you, this is golden information. And probably just because I've been doing this for so long, and I've done so much work on my mind, and it is way clear compared to the average person, I can just cut through the noise and the BS and go, that's the thing. That is the nugget. Okay, anyway, the nugget that came through in this training was, she talked about, as I've said, holding these two notions to be true at the same time. I'm willing to do what's required, and I'm going to seek the path of ease. And she said, which totally resonated with me, I'd say the same thing. she said that people often ask her, because she's really wealthy and really successful in terms of her business and so on, they often ask her, Amanda, how many hours do you work a week? And she said, the reason they're asking me this is because they're trying to suss out what can I get away with doing to have the same level of like financial freedom and success that you have? And she said, exactly like I would say, that's not the right question to be asking, because what you're asking when you ask this isn't coming from your highest self. Now, I said this to someone a little while ago that I was coaching who does a similar job to me. I was like, what about stepping into this whatever it takes attitude and demeanor? And they're like, but I've already given so much. I'm like, that's a stingy stance. That's not the stance of God, your higher self, your soul, the divine. That takes the standpoint of I will do whatever it takes. I don't know where it is in Love Notes, but if I go through that book, I can find you a page, if not pages, where I speak to this. This is the essence of, this is when you know that you're in the presence of divinity. Because it doesn't go, oh no, not again, not another podcast episode to put out, not another whatever it is that I'm not getting paid for. It just does not go there. And here's the thing, right? When you are asking what's the minimum I can get away with, you step away from, to some degree, your divinity, and therefore you step away from, to some degree, your fullest power, your infinite wise nature. You're cutting yourself off to some degree. Not smart, okay? When you step into, I will do whatever it takes attitude, you are stepping into your divinity, and therefore you're clothing yourself in your deepest, truest, fullest wisdom. Always the best perspective, the best and most valuable point of view that you can take at any point, of course. And so there's this paradox. I'm obsessed with the paradoxes of life, of how the universe is set up, that when you step into I will do whatever it takes attitude, life doesn't then go, ha, you've said you'll give me everything, I'm going to bleed you dry, you little mofo. Not loving, not kind, not the way that divinity works. Just doesn't go like this. God, the universe, whatever, is benevolent, loving, giving. So it doesn't go, gotcha, I'm going to take it from you. No, it does not. What happens is you are given to, because you step into your divinity. And from that standing point, you are magnetic to everything that you've ever dreamed of, wished for, and desire. So, of course, you're the one who is ultimately going to receive. So there's real power and golden energy in saying, I'm willing to do what's required. If I'm growing my business, I am willing to, like when I was recently getting Reframe ready for the launch on pre-sale, I was literally up at 4:20 one morning, sat in my bed working. I woke up because I had a lot of stuff going on in my life, and stuff with that I was busy, and so my brain woke me up. This is what happens when we're busy or we're stressed or both. And I was like, right, I've got these things to do, I might as well just get on with it. I wasn't complaining. Like nobody was there saying, Sophie, do this. I could have just put TV on. I could have sat there and stressed about being awake. I could have moaned, complained. Like there was no one watching. No one would know. I have sat there at 11 o'clock at night, with my headphones on in my bed, working away. Again, that's not for anybody else or because someone's cracking the whip and saying I've got to do it. It's because I have this powerful desire to serve, to shine the light of love upon you in your life. And that's a powerful thing that calls me on. And because that's something that is important to me, I will do what's required. I will do whatever it takes. And of course, this is going to benefit you, the people with whom it lands, but it will come back on me, because you cannot show up and give day in, day out and not be given to, unless, of course, there's a caveat, unless you don't expect that, in which case you block yourself. But if you do so with an open heart and you understand the rules of the universe and you understand that you'll always receive more than you give, it has to come back to you. So it's being willing to do what's required, and then at the same time, okay, I'm going to be wise here. And wisdom doesn't say be unnecessarily tough on yourself. It's not cruel. It's strong. It's powerful. It's infinite. It's invincible. It's invulnerable. It's willing. It's loving. So you're also going to say, I'm going to choose the path of ease. So if I think about my kids, for example, I am willing, because I adore those children. I am willing to do whatever it takes to give them this great start in life. At the same time, it doesn't mean I'm going to go into martyr mode and make things more challenging for myself. So it's like, right, how can I choose ease within this? The other Saturday morning, and this has really been on my mind, in my consciousness since I did that module of Amanda Frances. The other morning, I had the people that are purchasing my house were coming to do some measuring up on a Saturday morning. Vincent had football. Yara doesn't go to football because I don't want her to stand around on the side of the pitch all cold and getting wet and whatever. And so my challenge was getting the house clean and organized, looking good so that it was welcoming for the people that are buying it, getting Vincent up and ready for football, getting Yara sorted, and kind of these spinning plates, because ideally they'd have been somewhere else and I could have just focused on the house, but that wasn't an option. Okay, so the situation was what the situation was. We can sit and complain, oh, this shouldn't be happening, we can rail against it, oh, I wish I had more support, blah, 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 blah. Not helpful. But instead, it's like, okay, well, this is my situation. How can I find ease among this? And actually, then you go into solution focus mode, and then you're able to perceive and come up with the solutions. So what I decided was we were going to go out for breakfast. And so it was still challenging, because trying to keep the house tidy when you've got an 11-year-old and a nearly 13-year-old is not the easiest thing on the planet. But I was choosing ease within that. And actually, we went out for breakfast. I treated us to a breakfast in Clifton Village in Coat Brasserie, which always feels like a bit, well, it felt a bit fancy going there with the kids anyway. And we had such a lovely time. And actually, Vincent's football got cancelled. We ended up having a really fun day. But that's because I was open. Now, the other thing I want to say is getting a belief that, taking on this belief that every problem has a solution. Marie Forleo, who I love, wrote a book called Everything is Figure Outable, where she speaks to this very same mindset that she acquired from her mum, actually. And it is such a potent belief system to have. And if it's not yours, I recommend you use it too. You borrow it, you steal it, whatever. Every problem has a solution. This is so powerful, because as soon as something crops up, and it's going to, because it's life, instead of spiraling down into, oh no, this shouldn't be happening, why is this happening, this always happened to me, blah, 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 victim mode, you arrest that and you don't go down that rabbit hole, you don't fall in that ditch, and you're open. And when you're open, your subconscious, the universe, has the ability to bring the solutions which already exist, which in the moment that a problem comes about, like I say, the solution is also created in vibrational form, you allow it in. So it's being open to ease, it's being open to the problems having solutions, and not like, what can I get away with here? But I am willing to do what's required. And also, actually, Amanda Frances talked about checking in with yourself. You know, you've got a job, you're in a relationship, you're running a business, check in. Is this still what you want? Do you still want to be doing it? And if you do, if you really do, if it's in your heart that that's what you want, then of course it makes sense. You're going to want to do what's required. And if you don't want to do what's required, I would say you don't really want that thing. So think about, what do you really want? And you can think about this relative to probably anything in your life, whether it's, like I say, your relationship or any kind of relationship, work, business. Is like taking this, I'll do what's required, because it's for you. Like, no one splattered you on this planet and said you've got to live life like this and you've got to do it this way. You get to decide. Apart from the laws and so on, and the laws of the universe, there aren't rules. You get to decide. And when you remember your divinity and your power, it's way easier to step into this. So those two things, being willing to do what's required, whatever it takes, and at the same time choosing ease while you do that. I absolutely love this concept, and I've been thinking about it relative to all sorts of things. Love to know what you think about it. Love to know what you kind of like apply it to and attach it to, and what your takeaway or takeaways are from this episode. I will be back next week with, I'm not sure I'm going to talk about next week yet. By the time this is out, I will have put the new February meditation in the members area, which I was planning on calling Limitless. I think that's what it's going to be called, but I'm not sure yet. And that is all on both and energy. So apart from this doing what's required and doing it with ease, both and energy is something I'm not low-key obsessed with. I'm just obsessed with at the moment, and is blowing my mind how attaching it and applying it to different aspects and facets and areas of my life just totally expands my thought process, my consciousness. And I did talk about this in a previous podcast episode. I'm going to talk about it more because it is so transformative. Okay, that's it from me for today. I really appreciate you watching or listening. As ever, if you've got any questions or comments, I'd love to hear from you. Also, it really helps me, and I really love it when you share on social media, but make sure you tag me, please. Otherwise, I can't see it, and that's a bit sad. It's not sad, really. I say that tongue in cheek, of course, in jest. But thank you so much. I'll be back next week. Have a gorgeous rest of your day. Lots of love.